Alright guys, so you asked me for more videos. Here they are. So I'm really gonna quickly go over some of this bureaucracy stuff. Um, if you guys look at the screen, you already have this PowerPoint. I'm just gonna kind of go in depth over a few more things. And so this is the key of the abbreviations for these different um, things that are comprised of departments, agencies, staff, and then other further sub creations that the executive branch has made. So, like we all know, FBI, CIA, NASA, that's an independent agency. And then if you click over here, we even have some of those cabinet departments. So, Department of Homeland Security. And then we have some things that came out of the New Deal. And we got Department of Justice, FDA, the Fed, things like that. And so those are going to be really important to remember and to go over. Some of those are going to be on your bureaucracy activity. I know you guys were kind of struggling with that, but it's okay to Google those and kind of find that stuff out on your own. I know it's difficult to not go over them in class and things like that, but we all got to use our resources wisely. And so, just going back to the bureaucracy, it's a large, complex administrative structure that handles everyday business of organizations. And so, kind of going over, we're going to skip that one, the three main parts. And so, we talked about this a little bit, but it's going to be the Executive Office of the President, or the EOP, the 15 executive departments, and the independent agencies. So, the first part, the EOP, those are the people that are in direct support, direct line to the president daily almost. And so the really important ones, as you can see, are going to be the OMB, CEA, OPM, and NSC. So just looking at the titles, so like the Office of Management and the Budget, Council of Economic Advisors. Okay, those are going to be two really, really essential things because we know everything revolves around money. Money is going to be super important, and the president has to have a lot of hands. Anything you deal with money, you'll learn that you have to have sort of accountability. You have to have other eyes, other ears, other opinions when it comes to that because you don't want to be the person that gets blamed. And then we have things like the National Security Council. That's going to be really important. Just from the name, our whole country has kind of changed the way we view security and things like that after post 9/11. And so we even added another executive department or a cabinet position. And so all of these positions, the officials that preside over these offices, they have to have Senate approval. I'm going to link a video after this about how the Senate actually goes about in the whole process to have Senate approval after the president nominates you. And so this is one of those ways where it's a check for the legislative branch on the executive branch to approve some of these officials. But it's also a check of the president on the other two branches because he's the one who's getting to nominate them. So they both kind of share power in this and like it's balanced out, hence checks and balances, separation of powers. And so the executive cabinet departments, those are going to be those list of 15 departments that we add in accordance to kind of the need. So they're going to handle like major areas. Think of those kind of like how we think of the committees in Congress and how they get to handle specialized things, but then once they're handed off, they create subcommittees as well. And so the departments, they are kind of these catch-alls that cover certain things under that topic, but then they also have administrations, agencies, staff that handles more specific things under their larger umbrella. And so the first three, we kind of covered this, were state, treasury, and war or defense. That's because that's what we needed at the time. That's what our country found important at the time. And then, like I said, they add things as we've evolved as a country and as we've needed those over the year. Drop my pen. What else is new? And so they have a secretary, and then there's an undersecretary or deputy, and that is just the order of authority in those departments. They're appointed and then confirmed by the Senate. Again, the Senate confirmation process video is the same for these department heads. The only person that is not a secretary is the Attorney General, and that is the head of the Justice Department. So the two secretary roles, they run their department and advise the president. So this is the list of the 15. Like I said, these were the first three. And then we go down Department of Justice. That one's pretty obvious. Department of the Interior, that's going to deal with a lot of like our national parks and upkeeping of the interior of our nation. The Department of Agriculture, obvious. Commerce, that would be like trade and money, taxes, tariffs, things like that. Department of Labor, that's going to be jobs, taxes, regulations. Health and Human Services, that's going to be healthcare, what we offer. Housing and Urban Development, that's going to be like city ordinances, things like that. What do we condemn to a certain extent? How do we offer housing that's affordable? Transportation, again, they're going to deal with things like how do we provide, how do we build, how do we fund public transportation, roads, things like that. Department of Energy, that's ever evolving. Education, Veterans Affairs, and then again, post 9/11, we have Homeland Security. So now getting into what's under, or what we kind of consider under a cabinet position would be an independent agency. And so we have independent executive agencies. That's going to be things like the CIA, NASA, Peace Corps, that they have a strong tie to the federal government, but they're not necessarily a cabinet. They have narrower, deeper focuses. Then we have independent regulatory commissions. That is going to be where we have things that have and enforce these regulations. So if you think about the Fed, Federal Communications Commission, Securities Exchange Commission, things like that, that is going to kind of go where each branch can't. They're regulating industry, the economy, things like that. And so some of those bureaucratic little abbreviations in our key, those are going to be these independent regulatory commissions. So if you think about that name, regulatory, that's going to be a group that's trying to regulate. And so that goes back even to our book examples and things like that, where it's talking about what government regulations are, kind of talking about people's critiques of them, if they like them, if we need them. We've talked about that all semester. And that's kind of something to have in the back of your head. And then the third type is government corporations. These are going to work a lot like a business. So you guys have heard me use this example over and over again. Your U.S. postman, your mailman, the U.S. Postal Service is part of the executive branch. It's part of the bureaucracy. And so partly it's going to act like a company. So we think of it, or at least I think of the post office as another like UPS, FedEx type thing, but it is separate, and it's a agency nonetheless, but they sell things, they have a profit, things like that.